10. Fantastic phlox, a classic perennial choice for the garden. Hello friends, and welcome back to Earthly Delights, the place where soil meets soul and every plant tells a story. If you're here, chances are you already feel that quiet joy when stepping into your garden or tending to a pot on your balcony. Maybe you're someone who dreams of filling small city spaces with living color. Or perhaps you're a seasoned gardener looking for a classic plant that never disappoints. Either way, this video is for you. Today we're talking about a flower that has charmed generations of gardeners, then slipped quietly into the background, only to return stronger than ever: phlox. Whether you're new to gardening, balancing busy work life with the calm of your plants, or enjoying retirement and finally giving more time to your garden, phlox has something for you. It's vibrant, resilient, and it fits beautifully into both large yards and cozy patios. Stay with me, because we'll explore not just varieties and care tips, but also how phlox can transform your garden into a space of color, fragrance, and timeless beauty. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Earthly Delights so you never miss an inspiring story or a practical tip to make your garden thrive. Part 1. The Heritage of Phlox, a plant with history. Let's begin our journey with the story of phlox, because every plant has a past, and knowing it makes us appreciate it even more. Imagine stepping back in time to the 1800s, when phlox was the crown jewel of many Victorian gardens. These flowers were cherished for their bold colors, their sweet fragrance, and their ability to bring life to even the most formal landscapes. But like many trends in gardening, their popularity shifted. By the late 1900s, phlox seemed to fade into the background, quietly overlooked while other plants took the spotlight. Yet, just like an old song rediscovered, phlox has returned, and this time it feels more meaningful than ever. Why? Because today's gardeners, you the ones watching this, are searching for plants with real value. You're not just looking for quick seasonal color. You want perennials that tell a story, that invite pollinators into your yard, and that stands strong year after year with minimal fuss. Phlox fits perfectly into this new wave of gardening, where beauty meets practicality and tradition meets innovation. And let's not forget where phlox began. Its roots stretch back to North America, thriving in wild meadows and along stream banks. From there, it crossed the ocean, where breeders in Europe, especially France and Eastern Europe, refined the varieties we know today. That mix of rugged origin and careful cultivation makes phlox both tough and elegant. Just the kind of plant that resonates with gardeners of all levels. So as we step into the world of phlox together, keep this in mind. When you plant it in your garden, you're not just adding flowers. You're carrying forward a tradition that links us to past generations while offering fresh possibilities for the future. And that's where the real magic begins. Part 2, why gardeners like you need phlox. Now that we've uncovered the story behind phlox, let's talk about why this plant belongs in your garden. No matter what stage of life or gardening journey you're in, perhaps you're a beginner, just starting out with a balcony full of pots, testing your green thumb for the first time. Or maybe you're someone who tends a backyard garden as a way to unwind after long work days, seeking that moment of calm when the world slows down. You might even be a seasoned gardener, retired or simply with more time, looking for perennials that reward your effort with lasting beauty. Wherever you fall, phlox has something unique to offer. First, it's a workhorse when it comes to color. Few plants can deliver such vibrant bloom for such an extended season. And it doesn't just bring joy to your eyes, it brings life to your garden. Phlox is loved by butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds, turning your outdoor space into a lively sanctuary. If you've ever longed to see pollinators dance through your flowers, this is the plant that makes it happen. But beyond the spectacle, phlox also provides reliability. It's tough, adaptable, and forgiving, which means you don't need to be a professional horticulturist to succeed with it. Plant it once, give it a little care, and it will return year after year, stronger and fuller, becoming a steady companion in your gardening story. For busy people, that's a blessing. You get beauty without the stress. And here's something many of you will appreciate. Phlox fits into all kinds of spaces: large borders, cozy courtyards, shady corners, or even balcony containers. It finds a way to belong. It's not just a flower, it's a versatile brushstroke you can use to paint your outdoor canvas exactly how you imagine it. So if you've been searching for a plant that blends beauty, resilience, and meaning, phlox may be the very friend your garden has been waiting for. Part 3. Tall summer stars, the paniculata varieties. When summer reaches at its height and the air is warm with the hum of bees, there's one type of phlox that truly steals the spotlight: the paniculata varieties. These are the tall, upright stars that command attention in any border. They're clusters of blooms standing proudly like crowns on strong stems. If you've ever walked through a garden in midsummer and been caught off guard by a wave of fragrance drifting across the air, there's a good chance it came from these phlox. What makes paniculata so special is not just their size, though their height is impressive, often reaching 3 or even 4 feet. It's the drama they bring to the garden. Picture their blooms as giant mop-head clusters, bursting with color, pure whites that glow in the evening light, fiery reds that seem to burn under the midday sun, and soft pinks that carry the romance of a summer sunset. Varieties like Danielle show off a clean, pure white with a delicate green eye, while Logan Black delivers a bold statement with deep foliage topped by orange-red flowers. Each one has a character of its own, like actors on a stage, giving your garden both depth and variety. And it's not only about looks. The scent of these tall phlox adds another layer of delight. Some carry a traditional sweet perfume that feels nostalgic, while others lean toward fresher, lighter notes, each adding personality to your outdoor space. Imagine relaxing in your yard on a warm evening, the air perfumed naturally, no candles or sprays required. But the real gift of paniculata is how they create structure. In a mixed border, they rise above other plants, offering a backdrop against which smaller perennials and annuals can shine. They bring order and elegance, while still inviting wildlife to dance among their blooms. For gardeners who want impact without complication, these phlox are the summer companions you'll return to again and again. Part 4. Subtle Beauties Pinks, Lilacs, and Flame Series. Not every plant in the garden has to shout for attention. Sometimes the most lasting impression comes from those that whisper beauty with elegance. This is where the softer shades of phlox step into the story: the pinks, the lilacs, and the newer Flame series. These are the varieties that bring harmony rather than drama, weaving themselves into your garden like quiet companions that complete the scene without overwhelming it. Think of the soft blush of Dresden pink, its blooms carrying a delicate charm that feels almost timeless, like a pastel painting come to life. Or the classic beauty of bright eyes, whose soft petals are accented with a darker eye at the center, giving it depth and character. Then there's Gray Lady, with lilac purple tones surrounding a clean white heart, subtle, refined, yet unforgettable once you've seen it. These shades may not scream from across the garden, but up close they feel deeply personal, almost as if they were planted just for you. The Flame series adds a more modern twist to the story. These compact phlox have been bred to fit into smaller spaces, perfect for today's gardeners who may not have sprawling borders to fill. If you're tending plants on a balcony, a city courtyard, or even a modest suburban yard, these shorter, free-flowering varieties bring the joy of phlox into places where tall paniculatas might feel overwhelming. Purple Flame, with its vivid purple blooms, is a great example. Rich in color, yet compact in size, ready to brighten a corner without demanding too much space. Together, these subtle beauties are like the soft notes in a piece of music, balancing the bold chords of taller varieties. They offer diversity, charm, and versatility, proving that sometimes the quieter plants are the ones that make the garden feel complete. With their range of hues and sizes, the pinks, lilacs, and flames remind us that elegance often lives in simplicity, waiting to be noticed by those who take the time to look closer. Part 5. Uncommon Charms, Hidden Treasures of the Phlox World. Every garden has its showstoppers, but it's often the hidden treasures that linger in your memory. Among the phlox family, there are varieties that aren't always found in garden centers or featured in glossy catalogs. Yet they hold a unique charm that can transform a planting scheme into something unforgettable. These are the uncommon gems, the plants you discover almost by accident, and once you've seen them, you'll never want to let them go. Take Norley, for example, a variety that wears its beauty not just in flowers but in foliage. With green leaves edged in cream, it provides color and texture even when not in bloom. When the flowers arrive, soft lilac with white highlights, they create a striking contrast against the patterned leaves. It's the kind of plant that makes you pause for a second look, rewarding the gardener who values details beyond the obvious. Then there are varieties like Dresden China, with larger than usual individual flowers and an old-world fragrance that feels like stepping back into a classic cottage garden. These plants might not be on every shopping list, but when you find them, you realize they bring a richness of character that mass-produced varieties can't always match. They're like rare antiques carrying a sense of history and individuality that enriches the whole garden. What makes these uncommon phlox so valuable is not just their rarity, but the way they invite curiosity. They spark conversations when friends visit your garden and notice something unusual. They remind us that gardening isn't only about filling space with color, but also about discovering plants that surprise us, that hold stories within their petals and leaves. These hidden treasures may not be the first varieties you plant, but once you've welcomed them into your space, they often become the ones you cherish the most. They turn an ordinary garden into a personal collection, a space that reflects not only beauty, but also the unique choices of the gardener who tends it. Part 6, Upright Performers, the Arenzii and Woodland Phlox. As we move deeper into the world of phlox, we come across varieties that stand tall with quiet dignity, the Arenzii and the woodland types. These are not the flamboyant stars of the summer border, but rather the graceful performers who hold their own, bringing structure and rhythm to your garden through their upright forms. Their presence is like the steady notes in a symphony, keeping everything balanced while still offering beauty in abundance. The Arenzii phlox are remarkable for their height and their airy quality. They can easily reach 4 feet. Their slender stems topped with delicate blooms that create a soft haze of color. They don't form big, heavy clumps, but instead rise elegantly, giving a vertical lift that makes borders feel alive and dynamic. When you see them swaying gently in the breeze, you realize they add movement as well as height, a reminder that gardens are not static, but living, breathing spaces. On the other hand, woodland phlox, often grouped under the maculata types, bring a different kind of grace. Instead of rounded clusters, their blooms form more cylindrical shapes, with narrow leaves and stems that adapt beautifully to part shade conditions. This makes them invaluable for gardeners who often feel their shaded corners limit their plant choices. Imagine those forgotten spaces under trees or along fences suddenly glowing with elegant spires of color. These are the gifts woodland phlox provide. What makes both the Arenzii and woodland varieties so compelling is their ability to bridge gaps in the garden calendar. They flower slightly earlier than the bold paniculatas, extending the bloom season and keeping your borders vibrant for longer. They also resist mildew better than some of their cousins, a quiet reassurance for gardeners who want beauty without constant worry. Together, these upright performers bring balance, height, and resilience, proving that sometimes it's the plants working quietly in the background that give a garden its true sense of depth and continuity. Part 7, the role of spring phlox in garden rhythm. Before the heat of summer arrives and long days stretch across the season, spring phlox quietly steps forward to set the stage. These early bloomers may not reach the height of their summer cousins, but they weave a carpet of color that transforms bare ground into living tapestry. After months of winter dormancy, there is something profoundly uplifting about seeing creeping phlox spill over rock walls or moss phlox forming dense mats of purple, pink, or white, almost like nature has unrolled a welcome mat for warmer days ahead. What makes spring phlox so endearing is their ability to bring instant cheer when gardens need it most. As daffodils and tulips begin to fade, these ground-hugging blooms step in to ensure the season doesn't lose momentum. Their flowers create a flowing rhythm, guiding the eye from one corner of the garden to another, connecting spaces and giving continuity between early bulbs and the taller perennials still preparing for their turn. For those who love design, this bridging role is invaluable. It keeps your garden alive with color when it might otherwise feel empty. Spring phlox is also wonderfully practical. It suppresses weeds with its thick coverage, fills awkward spaces between stepping stones, and softens the edges of borders with natural ease. And despite its delicate appearance, it is tough, thriving on slopes, in gravel gardens, or even in containers. For gardeners with limited space or those who want beauty without constant effort, these varieties are a gift. But beyond function, there is poetry in their timing. They remind us that every garden has a rhythm, a sequence of moments that together create a season of joy. Spring phlox opens the performance with a burst of color and sets the mood for everything that follows, ensuring your garden tells a continuous story from the first warm days of the year. Part 8. Caring for phlox without the stress. Of course, no matter how beautiful or historic a plant may be, what truly matters to most gardeners is how easy it is to live with. That's where phlox shines even brighter. It rewards you generously without demanding constant attention. Still, like any good relationship, a little care goes a long way, and knowing how to nurture phlox properly means you'll enjoy their blooms for many years to come. The first key to success is spacing. Phlox love room to breathe, and giving them enough space between plants prevents the mildew that sometimes troubles their leaves. Think of it as giving them a little personal space. Just as people thrive when they're not overcrowded, your phlox will too. Good air circulation and consistent watering at the base rather than overhead makes all the difference in keeping foliage healthy and vibrant. Then comes the secret every experienced gardener treasures: cutting back at the right time. After their first flush of flowers, trim them lightly, never all the way to the ground, but just enough to encourage fresh growth. This small act can reward you with a second wave of blooms, extending the season and keeping your borders lively well into late summer. It feels almost magical, as though you've unlocked an extra gift hidden within the plant. Phlox also benefit from simple practices like mulching, which keeps the soil cool and retains moisture during hot spells. They aren't fussy about soil type, but they do appreciate well-draining ground, and a touch of compost in spring keeps them vigorous. If you're someone who juggles gardening with a busy lifestyle, these simple routines are easy to remember and even easier to maintain. Caring for phlox isn't about chasing perfection. It's about small, thoughtful actions that lead to lasting rewards. With just a little effort, you'll find yourself surrounded by blooms longer than you imagined. Proof that some plants truly give back more than they take. Part 9. Phlox and garden design. Not just a flower. When you look at phlox simply as a flower, you might miss its true potential. In reality, phlox is more than a bloom. It's a design tool, a way to shape mood and atmosphere in your garden. Imagine walking through your space and noticing how phlox naturally ties everything together, softening edges, filling gaps, and creating waves of color that guide the eye across borders. These are not just plants, they're brushstrokes on a living canvas. Tall varieties create backdrops of drama, rising behind shorter companions like coneflowers or daylilies. Together, they form layers of color and texture that feel intentional and crafted, even if the planting itself is simple. Smaller phlox varieties, on the other hand, are perfect for the front of borders or containers, where their compact blooms add brightness without overwhelming the space. For those of you gardening on patios or balconies, they can transform a modest corner into a miniature retreat full of life and charm. Pairing phlox with other plants opens even more possibilities. Place them near lavender, and you'll have fragrance mingling in the air, a sensory delight every time you step outside. Combine them with ornamental grasses, and you'll see a dance of movement, with tall blooms swaying against the feathery textures of grass. Even herbs like thyme or rosemary can sit comfortably alongside shorter phlox, blending usefulness with beauty in one harmonious scene. What makes phlox so versatile in design is its ability to shift roles depending on what you need. It can be the star, standing tall and bold, or it can be the quiet companion, filling in spaces and adding softness. In this way, phlox reflects the heart of gardening itself, finding balance, creating harmony, and telling your story through plants that work together as one. Part 10. Phlox for the future. why they belong in modern gardens. As we look ahead, gardening itself is changing. More of us are searching for plants that are not only beautiful but also meaningful. Plants that support wildlife, thrive with less fuss, and fit into the fast pace of modern life. Phlox, with its deep roots in history and its adaptability, feels perfectly suited to this moment. It is a flower that bridges the past and the future, carrying tradition while answering today's call for sustainable and rewarding choices. In an age when many people live in smaller homes or urban spaces, Phlox proves its flexibility. Compact varieties fit neatly into balcony planters, while taller forms bring drama to suburban borders. For those of you who want to create a sanctuary at home, Phlox can anchor the space, offering color, fragrance, and movement without requiring constant effort. Its hardiness means you can count on it season after season, a reliable friend in an ever-changing world. Beyond personal joy, planting Phlox is also a gift to the environment. Its nectar draws bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds, helping to sustain the delicate web of life that so many of us want to protect. Choosing Phlox is more than a design decision. It's an act of stewardship, a way of saying your garden belongs not just to you, but also to the creatures that share it. This is why Phlox belongs in the gardens of the future. Whether you are a busy professional carving out moments of calm, a beginner discovering the magic of plants, or a seasoned gardener creating your legacy, Phlox adapts to your story. It is timeless yet modern, dependable yet full of surprise. Plant it now and you'll find yourself part of a tradition that grows richer every year. Proof that beauty and purpose can live side by side in the garden. The timeless magic of Phlox. And so, we come to the end of our journey with Phlox, a plant that carries history in its roots, fragrance in its blooms, and resilience in its very nature. From the bold paniculata towering in midsummer borders, to the subtle flame series perfect for small patios, and the creeping forms that paint the ground in spring, Phlox proves again and again that it deserves a place in every gardener's heart. It is not just a flower, it is a bridge between generations, a faithful companion for pollinators, and a reminder that beauty can be both simple and profound. For you, the gardeners who watch this channel, whether you're carefully tending indoor pots, crafting a family-friendly backyard, or building the cottage garden of your dreams, Phlox offers something personal. It adapts, it endures, and it rewards patience with waves of color that feel almost endless. And in a world where we all long for connection and calm, isn't it wonderful to have a plant that brings both to your doorstep? Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which Phlox variety speaks to you most? Are you drawn to the tall, fragrant summer stars? Or do you prefer the quiet charm of spring carpets and subtle lilac tones? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read everyone, and your stories inspire the whole Earthly Delights community. If you found this journey inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join us for more tales where soil meets soul. Until next time, may your garden grow with beauty, joy, and a touch of timeless magic.